Welcome to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It's 2 in the morning on the East Coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Welcome to Dave
and Mecky's
Shiny Side Out on WZZR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. It's home to fresh, unfiltered ideas and conversations in the chat room, and I'll get to that, why I changed the wording, and a place to get your merch. This is show number 480.
Zero, it doesn't really sound the same. 80 and 400.
Yes. Yeah. You know, you can catch us on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. If you missed Laris's show, you missed another good one. That was she had tonight, the Cyber Witch Cafe with Nish and Montana Jordan. And they were talking about witchcraft and world affairs. Awesome show. But, you know, we always say, if you missed that, then, you know, shame on you. It's a Mecky quote. But you don't have to miss it. I mean, you can just subscribe to the archives. So you don't have to catch the shows live. You can just download the MP3 and listen when you want. How easy is that? In fact, it's so easy, you can do it by Patreon now. And it's just so much. We can't make it. There's no way to make it easier. That is the extreme easiness. There you go.
It's the easy.
Invariably, the easiest possible method of being able to access an online radio show. Mecky and I do throw our shows up onto YouTube, so. But we ask that if you do that and you do like any content that either us, Slavs, or anyone else brings to you, then subscribe via Patreon to the station. And if you like specifically what Mecky and I, bring up, and maybe we can educate you. If you like anything, please subscribe to our channel, and we have a Patreon link in the videos. So can you do that as well, please? Happy if you do. And you know what? Any money we receive is going to go towards us being able to do live research in the field. Not
Fielded research.
Fielded research. So today, there's a bit of story around this, but I'll cover it after it. Both Mecky and I, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. Normally where I live, it's the Darkinjung, but today it's the Bungalung. And Mecky?
Unchanged, the Rock people.
Unchanged. And we do pay, while I laugh, I'm laughing at the comedy in it, but what is serious and with all humble emotion, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Mecky, the reason why I changed the word from unadulterated to unfiltered is because of the bill that was passed in Florida that has allowed individuals to sue the online platforms that we use and love, and hate and love and use.
And love.
And love. Don't forget love.
And use.
Yeah. And love and hate and use. And the Facebooks, the Twitters, all of those public, social media platforms. The reason, well, they're actually not public at all. They're private. Who am I kidding? Because if you get deplatformed, you're being silenced. And what the bill is attempting to do is say, just because you speak out against the current narrative doesn't make you wrong. And who is to say what wrong is?
Me.
So, no, you.
There you go.
It's
you asked the question, you got the answer. I'll tell you.
Right. Okay, so moving on. Yeah, great. I'll make sure that I ask you next time. I want to know whether I'm right and wrong. Right, not all right and wrong at the same time.
Dave, that's what I do.
That's what you do.
I'm here for you.
Oh, thanks. You're backing me up there. That's great. I love it. Yeah. So you can imagine what this is going to do for the big tech companies. Actually, it's not going to do anything. They don't really care. They'll still deplatform the hell out of you. They'll still have some private meetings where they all discuss the deplatforming at the same time and issue the instruction at the same time. What's it called? There's no conspiracy here. Mickey, move along. Stop looking behind the curtain.
There's no curtain.
What curtain?
There's no curtain.
Just remember, there's no spoon. We know that.
No curtains. This is North Korea. Curtains don't exist. They're expensive.
I hate the curtains. If it's North Korea.
But a little kimchi goes down well.
A bit of kimchi, yeah. That's it. It's a bit of muddy river water. Grass clippings. That's for me.
Mm-hmm.
The life of the cow. That's for me. Not in India, though. I'm not going there for a minute. So that's the reason why I changed it from unadulterated to unfiltered, because the last thing I want to do is get deplatformed from something that is misconstrued as unadulterated. Oh, what is it? Child porn? Is that what it is? I don't know. I just don't know. So just trying to be a bit safer there with the unfiltered term. But Mickey, you might ask, Dave, why are you in Bungalang country?
Why are you in Bungalang country, Dave? I thought I might ask you.
That's such a good question.
I know.
I've got an answer. I have an answer for you. It's because the primary reason is my partner. She was down in Victoria enjoying the musical of Harry Potter. And who wouldn't like that? Oh, by the way, no, we're not streaming YouTube this week because I all of the apps that do that are on my home PC and they're not here. But we will put a copy up onto YouTube a bit later on. Thank you, John, for asking. Now, so if you haven't seen, if everywhere else in the world isn't aware that we've been in elimination mode of the virus, and every time it pops up, we play whack-a-mole and try and lock everything down and isolate it, and which is what everyone should have done. But anyway, and all of the intrusions of the virus coming into a country are all coming into the country. They're not found just roaming about from host to host within our borders. And what happens is people coming through quarantine, they either get infected or cross-contaminate to someone else in quarantine. And then as they leave quarantine, they test negative, and then they come out and they emerge, and within 2 weeks they've got the virus, but they've caught it in quarantine because we've now found the Indian strain is doing the rounds. And it can only have come in through quarantine. And I heard, Mickey, that people say, quarantine's 99.9% successful.
Really?
In doing what? What? Allowing the virus to get through?
I think that's 100% success rate there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We'll get it through every time, baby. Doesn't matter which variants, we get you in that country and you got sick and it's all good.
What do you need? What do you need? More virus? More virus? We'll get to the virus. Don't worry.
Why did I channel a southern accent there?
I don't know.
Why did I do that?
Who knows? I've stopped asking.
Right?
Yeah. Well, look, who am I to say? I start doing cartoon characters. Yes. So that's very strange. The news, they didn't even talk about that. They didn't say, what? Wouldn't you say more than 20% of people that came through gave it to people inside? What? Quarantine? Yeah. So anyway, having said that, so to avoid being even breathing the same air as my partner, I avoided her entirely, had to pack up and leave and go to another. Well, I don't know, is 695 kilometers far enough? I don't think so, but that's all right. The further away, the better. And so geez, that was a trek. Yeah, I stayed at my mate's place the first night, but I've got a swag, so I can sleep anywhere, right? And home away from home. I feel like Ned Flanders sometimes. You say, "Oh, we get to camp out in the car, woo,
Yay!
yay!" Rod and Todd, that's their reaction. I've got all of that in my head. So anyway, that's where I am. I'm miles from home. I've gone up to my dad's place, and my partner is. Well, she hasn't tested positive yet, which is fantastic. It has cramped her other plans of going to the ACT because they won't let someone who's been in Victoria during the commencement of lockdown to enter ACT. It's funny. It's like shields up. It's like Star Trek. Code red, shields up. That's it. Close the borders. And if you're a fan of YouTube, there's a Jason. There's a guy that does that. It's very funny. And he's even got T-shirts, Jason. So if you see one out there, someone, they're a fan of this YouTube channel. And he plays all of the premieres. Like it's all him doing each one of them. It's very funny. And Tasmania gets nothing. You should see it. I'll post a link. When I finally put this onto YouTube in about a week's time, I'll add the link to that. So just so, we want to share and we care and share, Mackie. So anyway, look, that's pretty much it. Of just running away from the virus. Eventually, it's going to be like the world of the zombies. All my friends are getting the vaccine right now, and one of my friends had a headache for 3 days.
Actually, I spoke to someone who got I want to say AstraZeneca.
Yeah, that's the one. Same as my friend. Yeah,
both shots, I think now. But the first time they got it, they got really sick for a couple of days, like flu-like symptoms. And his wife also got it. You know him. I won't mention his name.
Yeah, right. That's fine. Yeah.
But what he told me was really interesting. I met with him on I think Thursday. We had coffee or something like that. Anyway, he said ever since he's taken the second shot, he can't stay awake past 10 o'clock, and he's in his maybe his 50s. He's not old, right? And he before that he could stay up late and watch a movie or whatever, or work late even. But now 10 o'clock comes around after he took the injections, out like a light. Can't stay up. Now so some might say, oh well, that's some kind of anecdotal evidence there, right?
No, they'll claim it's coincidental.
Of course. And then, look, I can't claim because I haven't done any research or any investigation. I can't claim that it's a directly related result. It's just odd that once you have had the shot, you can no longer stay up late. And it doesn't feel sick or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. He just gets really tired. So, interesting.
That's interesting because I was speaking to a doctor, a medical doctor, rather than a foot doctor or a podiatrist.
You're not the real doctor.
You've seen that movie. That's funny. Yeah. So was it Seinfeld?
Seinfeld was there as well, yes.
Yeah. You're not a real doctor.
You're dead.
So I was talking to about a doctor about azoospermia and the vaccine and the virus, and they said, we know. And I said, well, isn't this going to be terrible going forward?
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, we have to see. Who knows? We don't know. It's early days. They know. They know what this. They know. I think they're already in this whole. I don't know, dog and pony show of, we've got to save the entire planet with a vaccine, but all the vaccines are different companies, and there's 2 sets, right? Or 3 sets. I think the Chinese one is different. It's not mRNA, and you have the mRNA, and then the AstraZeneca, the modified, or the adenovirus modified, and we don't know what the true outcome is. We've got disclosure. As best as disclosure could ever be, described in a bill that went through American Parliament. That was that 5,000-page bill that no one could ever read. Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be captivating the audience. and be a snore fest. But buried in there is the release of documents from the American CIA and the FBI or wherever they are, right? About aliens and UFOs. They're meant to release it. And I've been talking, Mackie, with my friends about this. And one of them, I know he'd be listening right now. And there's a whole bunch of different scenarios. But to draw a small bow on this, it would be that they're going to continue a PSYOP, that this whole thing is, they're asking us to do it. Well, we'll give them this, but it won't be true. Maybe it's to cover something else. So a fan of the show was telling me the other day, and I love this. I do love it. Imagine if all of the UFOs that we see today are simply like like for example, the Tic Tac and the other one that followed the ship for a week, and the triangles and all this. Imagine if they were AI, self-driven AI technology that went rogue. It's just out there. It's out there. It's just doing stuff. It's doing its own thing, and that could be an easy way to explain away, what they've got. They could simply just say, "Look, it's mostly ours." What about the other 99%? Well, we won't talk about that.
That's not ours. So I don't want to talk about it because that's not ours. I mean, that's someone else's story. Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about what's ours, in this release, but it's classified.
Well, I could tell you, but then you would know it, but then I kill you. So you want to know?
Flesh eating. Jeez, classified. Alien classified.
We'll have to redact you.
Redact you.
What? Don't redact
Suddenly
me.
everyone's coloured in with black text.
No, but,
yeah. So look, who knows? My thoughts are they'll just say yes, they're unknown or something like that, and we've been tracking them. We don't know their origin. We haven't had contact. That would be like the softest approach. Imagine the hard approach where they say, yeah, actually, aliens are sharing the planet with us and have been for a long time. Yeah, they're on the moon as well, and we've had coffee.
Yeah, they're not aliens at all. In fact, they're just as indigenous as we are.
Yeah, could you imagine that? They live on a place on the Earth we can't tell you about, so don't bother looking. And
don't dig any holes.
Don't dig any holes deeper than a meter, right? What? It's an ant's nest down there. You don't want to know. I can't imagine what the shape of that would be, Mackie. Do you have any thoughts?
I've got many thoughts.
I know, okay. Related to this specific topic.
Look, I think... okay, so again, disclosure is a done thing. We fell asleep, we missed it, it's happened. We have now had official confirmation that these sightings are in fact real. They're real. They're not swamp gas or low flying geese or whatever have you. It's a thing, and we don't know what it is. Therefore, it classifies as a truly unidentified flying object or objects, several of them, right? That we have now been made aware of that are real. It's no longer someone's mass hallucination. So that's a big step forward. Okay, tick in the box. And it's gone further, and I'm happy to report, Dave, that the Skinwalker Ranch show that I spoke about, the documentary, is back with 4 episodes, and the episodes are airing now. They start at the beginning of May. So the show is back. If you have got access to it, I urge you to watch it. It's fascinating stuff. Now, but what I think is going to happen, though, Dave, and I really believe it will, true disclosure of saying, hey, these are the guys, this is what's really happening.
Stargate is real.
Yeah, that'll come, but it will only be a very, very tiny smidgen of the truth, because the true truth would be too devastating for most people. And in fact, most people don't know it. Even the parasites in charge don't know. Even the hidden parasites behind many curtains that have been around for a long, long time, I don't think they know all of it. And I believe, no hubris here, no hubris intended, but I believe that Dave and I have uncovered in our thoughts, musings, researches, and shared material with you all what it's all about. And I think I think our degree of accuracy is it's a fairly high percentage. Okay, now obviously not everything is right that we say. Clearly, that would be reaching too far, but maybe it is. And other researchers have come to similar landings as us, right? So the true disclosure will never happen. We will get disclosure, or some of it anyway. And in fact, it's been happening through the entertainment industry more than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right? All the shows you're watching, right? All the, even if they're not themed that way, even if they have nothing to do with, space travel or
directly like Men in Black, right?
Yeah. But it's out there, and it's definitely something that has been bubbling under the hood for a long time, right? And don't forget, it's also generational. A lot of the people that initially had thought to keep Roswell and the Arnold UFOs, etc., etc.
Oh yeah, those people are gone.
They're gone. They're gone. And in fact, the millennials today, they wouldn't even care. Oh, yeah.
They don't look, because remember, Mekhi, the discussions I've told you about where millennials will say, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. What do you think about this?" And I tell them, I go, "Yeah, that's pretty right." So, not saying that I'm right, just that they didn't quite have an opinion. They'd seen a lot of things and went, "Well, yeah, that kind of makes sense." When you give them any opinion, so I could have said, well, what about the moon landings? Well, I said, I don't think we went in 11, but I think we went after that, right? Apollo number. But I could have said, oh, yeah, it was all filmed in a studio. We never went. They go, oh, right, okay. I think we get the same answer. It's almost like I'm not being awful to all millennials, but the ones that have
just to some specific
come to me to an extent that they've seen all of the things on YouTube. So they know of them all, but I don't think they have decided to research or form an opinion. One of the callers, Mekhi, has said that Channel 7 p.m. tonight, disclosure special should be interesting how they manipulate the agenda. So that would be
tonight. Yeah,
tonight at 7 p.m.
Okay.
On Channel 7. That's an Australian news network. So if you have a VPN, you might be able to pop up and see it live. 7 is 1 hour after our show finishes for those international viewers. So it kind of irks me, Mekhi, that we want there to be disclosure. I've kind of dreamt of disclosure, at least full disclosure. I know we'll never ever get it. It's not a thing. But the disclosure that they give us will be what is probably current or appropriate for 20 years ago. They'll give that to us today.
Yeah. I think that's correct. Having said that, we're moving into a world that is going to be rife with uncertainty. I watched a fantastic German documentary. No, not documentary. It was really a guy talking for like 20 minutes on the German news channel called Deutsche Welle. It's part of what SBS broadcasts every language, and we'll find a news program on SBS broadcast on TV, in their language from their country, in fact. And this gentleman was going, in the typical German fashion, I guess, very detailed, very entertaining, even albeit a deadpan. And he talked about climate change. And you will go, well, Mekhi, hang on, we're talking about disclosure here and aliens and UFOs. What are you talking about climate change for?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason I'm talking about climate change is because, again, you can't look at these things in isolation. All of the things that are happening right now. So let's say there's a UFO sighting. It doesn't mean climate change isn't happening. Climate change is happening, and then there are Yetis and Bigfoot, and there's the UFOs, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. But what's happening, though, globally right now, we are moving into a period of time over the next 5 to 10 years and then onwards, where our certainties will no longer exist. We will no longer live in the world that we left behind, in our youth, in the 1990s, even the noughties of the 2000s. This is now a different world we're moving into. And this world will be characterized by complete uncertainty. It'll be characterized by unprecedented natural events, catastrophes, upheaval, and all manner of hardships. Again, not every country will be affected the same way, and in fact, wealthier nations will probably be better off. But the point is this: the planet is changing. Our society is changing. Political systems will change, and people will wake up. This pandemic that we're going through right now is it's come at the time which is most useful for the parasites. Therefore, I think it's a planned event. Okay, we are now exploring the cosmos. A lot of us are getting a really good education, and we'll get to that as a separate short topic. But a lot of us are, and a lot of us have the means to gather information, do our own research. So there's very high potential for us to evolve as human beings very quickly, right? Even having a cascade awareness event. Now, that didn't happen. I didn't see. This is the funny thing, Dave. You know how we said 2020? We learned that last year, at the end of last year, there was going to be an event, and it did take place at Uluru, right, for the native Australians and a few select guests. And that event was meant to rebalance the Earth. I'm simplifying it, but to raise the vibrational rate, to make the world a better place, or maybe even let some people escape. I had no idea that was happening until I was told it was happening, and it was
exactly. That was the Strongs that helped us with that.
Yeah, it was years after we postulated the hypothesis, as well as the fact that 2020 is going to be the year of either the awareness cascade or a massive negative event. And we saw in fact, several negative events, but the largest negative event, of course, was the SARS-CoV-2 outbreak. And so all of this knowledge, all of these things that we know, we know, but we don't want to know, and we pretend we don't know. I know it sounds funny. They're all bubbling to the surface. They're bubbling to the surface through art, okay, through movies, paintings, music, books. The creative expression is there because it's part of our collective unconscious. We know the information. We know it's there, and we know this is a critical time, and 2020 was a critical year. Not all is lost, because the event still went ahead, and we're still here, we're still standing, right? Now, it didn't happen as a mass realization event, which I hoped for, like that we all just ascend simultaneously. That would have been awesome. That didn't happen. And I think the vibrational frequency of the Earth was too low, and it had been made lower, right, because of SARS-CoV-2. Nothing else had the capacity to do it, Dave. Not terrorist attacks, but because this disease, let's say, this disease has the potential of touching everybody, and in fact, it touched everybody, irrespective of whether or not you're sick or someone that's sick.
That's right.
You are affected. Every single person on this planet has been affected by this thing, economically, right? From a health perspective, certainly. From a general feeling of I guess, fear. And terror.
I could explain it as not a devastating punch, a knockout punch to the jaw, but rather a punch in the guts.
Yeah, that's it for all of us. And then at the same time, and again, I get some hate for it. I believe that the death of George Floyd was also a deliberate act to again incites violence, uncertainty, and race hate. And that event was a global trigger. It was a global trigger for a whole bunch of stuff, right? Other things that are coming out, the pedophile rings, the sexual abuse, both by Epstein and Weinstein, as it were, right, in the Hollywood arena. All of these things, the Catholic Church as well. And now there's a news story today where they found the bodies of 215 Native American children. Yeah. On church property.
That's British Columbia, wasn't it?
Yeah, in Canada. Yeah, on church property. Now, so it's all coming out, right? The sand of time, if you will, is being wiped away, and all these disclosures are happening. It's almost like we're cleaning house just before something major is going to happen, and potentially that's what it is. What I'm saying to you, though, here, as important as it is, as life-changing an event as it is, disclosure of the existence of UFOs, unidentified flying objects. So we're not saying they're spaceships; they're just unidentified. Is just another one news item. It's just another news item that people, and in fact, because it doesn't really affect anyone, like bushfires or floods or storms or the SARS-CoV-2 or economic hardship or war. It's that's really interesting, Dave. But you know what? It doesn't really affect my life, right? And until an event affects your life, it's interesting and you want to know about it. And it's like, oh, wow, you go, wow, that's amazing. And then you forget about it. So this disclosure, it will happen. It will happen. We will get something very soon that will be even more concrete than the things we have had. It's just what's going to happen. It's the nature of the beast. And then you've got another factor that a lot of people forget about. For the longest time of our recorded history, we didn't know what was going on anywhere. We had no idea because we couldn't see it. We were where we were. We could see what we could see. Sometimes we get newspapers. Some people, are able to take pictures and make movies, and some, people have planes and they make aerial shots. But for the most part, the vast majority of the planet and the moon and other places around us are completely unknown to us. We can't see them today. And for the last few years, not long, but for the last few years, we are now in a position where we can see everything all the time. The resolution is going to get better. We're going to get eyes and ears everywhere, right? And not just in the cities, in the wildernesses, everywhere, right? So all of these things we are going to discover simply because our eyes and ears are all pervasive now. You find, though, that there are certain areas in the world that are completely blacked out. There are no eyes, there are no ears, and you can't get any satellite images. And they're not just military installations, everyone. So just go onto Google Earth for one, or go elsewhere. I don't care where you go, and just see where you can go and what you can see and what you can get to. And sometimes it's very blurry. In fact, it's so blurry it's completely pointless. You can't. But you go to other areas and you can zoom down and see people. Oh, they're still photographs, but you can see people. Other areas, it's so blurry you can't see anything. Right. So be aware that it's impossible now to hide. Almost impossible.
Yeah.
Go on.
So, but you know that they're modified. I know that you know, right? But the audience, it's a bit of a silly question. I remember, and I painted onto the rooftop of a building in the city a political slogan, and I did it intentionally because remember when we used to know when Google Earth was going to use the satellites to take photos? Back in the early days, Becky, right? And it was everyone cleaned their lawns up and everyone made it nice, and it's like say cheese. Well, we all knew in advance, and I painted the slogan, and it was photoshopped out. And the reason why I know it was photoshopped because the rooftop is the identical copy of the rooftop next door. It wasn't. It was a different rooftop with all different things on it, and they placed that over the top of my political slogan. And I thought that was really interesting. I'd been given permission by the building owner to do it, so I didn't break in or do it, but I did do it surreptitiously, and I did it at nighttime, and it felt really, really cool to do. But I know that what we'd see isn't always real. There is a base down in Antarctica which was uncovered, I think, in 2004 and thereabouts. And the Americans made a landing strip and brought a team in and emptied the site. It's a huge site, over kilometres, over more than a kilometre long. And they went through it and now have left it alone. And seasonally, before then, it was never visible. It had never been exposed to air. since it was covered up by ice, and now that it's, the melt, there was a large melt or not a displacement of snow. And you can see it, it's there. So proof that something was there. And this is, remember when all of those dignitaries from around the world were flown down to see something? Do you remember when one of them got sick as well and had to be evacuated? All around about the same period. So I'm now looking also at things like, let's just, for instance, the Three Gorges Dam, which has turned into a model now. It's no longer a photograph of the dam, it's now a model, and you can't see the photograph. You can't delete it from the view. It's just there. And you can slide back in time to when it wasn't even there, if you know what I mean. And it's still there as a model. So even if it was to be washed away, we'd still see it as a model. Isn't it really bizarre? Like, what a world we live in. They've actually digitized us to a certain extent the way they want us to be seen. Makes sense?
Oh, completely. Well, yes, it does. And it's also horrendous in the same breath, In fact, this is probably another topic we should spend some time on, which is the deep fake, where now.
Oh yeah.
Yes, so we do have, and this, I should say, should be probably a caveat of the little speech I gave earlier. Yes, while we have eyes and ears everywhere, we're also in a position like no other time before ever to completely falsify all the information that we put out there.
Running Man.
Completely. Yeah, in fact, there was this TV show called Utopia, not the American, the British version. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to do so. I really do. It is themed. I mean, but Dave, if they told me they had listened to our broadcast and that's inspired them, then I wouldn't be at all surprised. But it is so close to the bone. But what they do is there's one school shooting, for example. But the shooting is perpetrated by a professional killer, right? I'm not giving the story away, but what happens is the cameras see, of course, the killer shooting the students, right? He's like a grown man, but the video that's released and this is real time, by the way, is shows the body or a student. In fact, a student that's trying to apprehend. So they're trying to apprehend this kid who's, is part of this group that found this comic. It's a long story. I mean, you should really watch it yourself. But so they're blaming, the student they're chasing for the school shooting. But
it's real fake. It's deep fake. So
it's completely deep fake.
The live footage is showing a student, not the actual perpetrator.
Bingo. And that is the kind of capability that we have today. I mean, what you see on YouTube of what people do privately is like 20 generations behind what the real money can do. Right, be the three-letter agencies, in fact, no-letter agencies, or the parasites. They're way ahead of us in that game, and you can't even trust what you see. And this is really interesting. In the movie They Live, there was a signal that was broadcast. At least there was the narrative in the movie that would let us not see the real world. So there was sort of like an overlay. Right, so that was broadcast, and that's what you would see. And then then this gentleman found these, Ray-Ban sunglasses.
Yeah.
Right, they're pretty cool, and that would allow you to see the actual world, albeit black and white, but you saw the world.
Awesome! What a concept.
Yeah, without the broadcast signal clouding your mind, but it gave you a massive headache, etc., and could see these were aliens that were. Sort of robbing the planet away from us. They weren't conquering us with fire and brimstone. We simply had sold out to the aliens. That's the crux of the story.
Who knew that was real?
Well, right? we had sold out, and essentially they own everything now, right? The actual. So this is so close again to us here, Dave. This is funny, right? The parasitic class that owns everything, including you. So, but the point is that
thanks for including me.
Maybe there's an overlay here to our reality, and we've talked about this before. When you sleep, you escape this reality. You can see the real multiverse, as it were. And not always, but sometimes some people are lucid dreamers and they can control even more. But ultimately, what we're experiencing here, it has never sat right with me. It doesn't feel like the real, right? It feels like a close approximation, and something that is, it's just good enough to keep us here, and it's just close enough.
Well, it's the perfect matrix, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's wrong, right? I mean, it's really cramping our potential. Even our physical form has been altered in such a way. Altered, what I mean by that? Well, we are a binary species that is also configured anatomically to be directional. There's no good reason why that should be, but there it is. And that completely takes over our psyche and our personality matrix, because we look forward. Our eyes are on the front of our head, Dave, and our feet are configured to move forward. Everything in us is moving in a direction that we call forward. Going backwards is harder because we can't see, right? Left, right, and all that. But we are configured in a very specific way, and that very specific configuration also informs our worldview. Okay, we find it very difficult to conceive of an omnidirectional worldview. For us, history moves in a certain direction. Even if it's cyclical, it's still moving in a certain direction, which is complete nonsense, right? Nothing moves anywhere. There's no time, right? There's motion, maybe, but if you look at quantum physics, then you go, hang on, there's no motion. How can there be motion if we have a quantum entanglement? How does that work? Well, it doesn't. It's the point, right? So we have very little understanding of the true nature of reality in our reality here. And that's really odd and disturbing. We should be the masters of this reality, because we allegedly evolved here. We're born into it, and yet
allegedly,
and yet we are completely mystified by it. Not even so. Our intuition, which says one thing, is completely at odds with what actually happens out in the world. Completely at odds. There's nothing to do with it. But what? It's sorry. My point here is right.
That's what happens when you're born in the simulation.
It is exactly. In fact, your body will adjust to this. The funny thing is, you put on glasses that show the world upside down.
That's right. 3 days later, you can see perfectly.
You can see perfectly. You take glasses off, world is upside down. Your brain adjusts. It's an amazing little organ. By the way, I think it's just an interface, as far as I'm concerned. Your brain is just an interface for your actual entity that is you. But it's going too far. But see,
is it?
Maybe not. But see, this is why I think that we are going to be privy to some amazing knowledge that's going to come our way. There's going to be like these revelations, right? These revelations will come and say, "Oh, look at this! All these things that. Oh yeah, the human race is a lot older. Oh yeah, there used to be blue-skinned people. Oh yeah, UFOs are real. In fact, some of these UFOs are spaceships, and some are time capsules, and others, well, they're ours. And yes, we have traveled into deep space, and yes, we have traveled into deep time. And quantum physics, only lets you travel to potential futures, right? So you travel to the future. It's only a potential future. Whether or not it actually eventuates is up to us. You can travel to the past. You can, because from the point of the observer, us, it's static. But then of course you come into all kinds of hot water when you've got time travels from different time periods, all traveling at the same time. Then who's the original observer, and whose reality is the quantum probability, and which one is the actual terra firma? It gets.
I wonder
really
if it's possible to make one more than one time machine.
Well, again, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, what is time anyway? Look,
it's irrelevant.
All we know is motion. Motion is something that we perceive, right? And all time is an interval measurement of motion. That's all it is. Interval measurement of motion. That's time. It doesn't have any other meaning. And sometimes the motion is fast and slow, and sometimes time is fast and slow. Then maybe even run in reverse. Physics doesn't care. But from a quantum mechanical perspective, right, none of this makes any sense, because we're only talking in probabilities. Okay, unless the wave function collapses, we have unlimited choice. Okay,
and that's right. Because that's what probability is.
That's what it is. If you do not have a preconceived mind, like all of us do, we all do. That's why we're the perfect observers, because we expect a certain thing, and we've been taught from birth to expect.
If I hold a ball in my hand and I throw it into the air, it doesn't disappear into space, because I have an expectation that it will come back down again. It isn't purely the amount of effort that I put in that does that.
Yeah.
So in the quantum world, that is what drives the outcomes. It does happen. It does happen absolutely like we expect it to occur. That means, or therefore, we are driving the destiny of what is happening from a quantum world.
Yes, but someone is driving us, right? So someone needs us to drive in this direction. And that's why I think we're caught here. And that's why I think all these things that are coming our way, all this knowledge which will be given to us, all the people that are going to die, and there will many will die. Okay, this is not over yet, but it will come and lead to a new understanding. But it will still not be enough. It will still not be enough, and I fear that only people like Solaris and people like her, maybe to some extent Dave and myself, and others, the strong certainly, they know many things, but other researchers, other mystics, you call them metaphysicists, I don't care what you call these people, what you call us, only some of the world's population have any interest in the matter, and then only some of those go further and try to find and learn more and educate themselves, maybe others in the process. But for the most part, very few people have an interest in any of this, because again, it's been bred out of us. It's been completely bred out of us. It's
work, home, shops, Mackie.
Bingo.
It's the most interest that anyone has in life.
Yeah.
Also, I should say, restate it. The majority of people are only concerned about those three things.
Correct. In fact, and the more the better. See, this is perfect example of that kind of mindset. Where I live in Sydney, there's a place called St. Leonard's. St. Leonard's is close to the city. It's probably a 10-minute car drive to the city, so it's quite close. It's part of the North Shore. And in St. Leonard's, there's a train station. So they built this train station. It's fairly large. It's got North Shore line. Trains go through. And on top of the train station, they built this plaza. The plaza has got 20 shops, including a supermarket, restaurants, etc. Right? And it's a fairly large plaza, right? And on top of that plaza, or as part of the complex, they built 2 high-rises. And I want to say maybe 700-800 apartments.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thereabouts, right? It's the highest point that you will see from the city. You can see it. You look out, and it's there. That is the perfect analogy as to where the parasites would like us to be. So you live in the apartment, right? You go down to the train station. God forbid you have a car, and then in the train, you go to your place of work. Maybe even work from home, whatever. But you never have to see daylight in order to achieve that. So if I live in the apartment building, go down, go to the train station, the sky will never touch me, right? And into the train, underground. The trains are running mostly underground in North Sydney and Sydney. And then, except for the bridge, then I'm out. Okay, I can see some daylight. Then I go back into the tunnels. Yeah, in Sydney, and I alight at Town Hall Station or at Circular Quay Station, wherever my office is, and I can go back into the tunnels and never see daylight and go to my place of work, so I won't get wet, and the weather is now completely irrelevant too, right? And then I go back home, and I go shopping either near work, again not seeing the sun, or near my apartment where the shops are. So I just go to the shops, maybe, get some food as well. And up I go again into my apartment.
You can walk around about a third of the city underground.
Yeah. Now, that's for our parasites, that's ideal because they know, because they have eyes on you for the entire day. Okay? The entire day. Everywhere. Cameras everywhere. Then you carry your phone. They know where you are. Beautiful. We know exactly where you are. We can follow you around. Nothing unknown about you. We have got you completely figured out. They hate people they can't figure out. They really do. And that's really where we're moving. I see it in not just in Australia, but I see it everywhere in the world where the population centers are becoming denser and denser, Dave. They're becoming more dense near transportation hubs, right? They're becoming more dense near employment hubs, right? Because ultimately, our masters, our parasitic masters, don't want us to be moving around too much, right? It's unpredictable. We don't like that, right? We like to know where you are at all times, and eventually, like Germany, we will all need to tell the police wherever we move to. In Germany, if you move to a new city, you have to go to the police department in your hometown and say, "Look, I'm moving." Okay, so the police says, "Okay, thank you very much," and then you have to go to the police department in your new hometown and register. Believe it or not.
So China has the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. China's
that's on steroids.
They're the come on. Social social credit. Okay,
Yeah.
cameras on everyone. You can't travel if your social credit is too low. In fact, one day I can see it because it's just a thing that's going to happen. Your social credit is going to be so low that you'll be executed. Oh no,
Yeah.
no one likes him, Dave. No one likes him.
Put
Let's
it to
just-
a vote on social media.
Yeah, do we want him around? No, boo. What? Yeah.
I want the time when the corporation chooses your wife. That's from Rollerball.
We're not that far off.
Yeah.
Now,
Bring that on.
Think about this way. Right now, the pandemic, vaccine passports, genetic testing,
Yeah. Mhm.
and genetic predisposition. If
Mm.
you are being, groomed to be CEO or senior manager in a corporation, and we are moving into a corporate state anyway, right? They will make sure that they got the best possible people for the job, whatever that means. Best genes, da, da, da. But in order to guarantee that, yes, we can do certain kinds of gene manipulation, but they have to find you someone with a genetic code that's compatible to yours to produce the best possible offspring.
Uh-oh.
Right? It makes sense. If you know,
Can I-
from a capitalist point of view, it makes perfect sense. Of course, we have gone completely off the rocker.
I'm
with
going to
all
have
of
to
this.
make, Mickey, I'm going to have to make a 180-degree turn on Facebook posting. If this becomes, if they're the stakeholders in the Great Reset, I got to start pleasing my masters.
that's not a bad idea.
Oh my
Having
God.
said all of that, I listened to a video, in fact, 6 hours of videos. Simon Sinek, I think his name is, a colleague of mine posted something in our internal intranet. And the video essentially says, well, what does it mean to be a good leader or a good manager? What does it mean? I mean, you should look after your people, then you care, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the complete opposite to what actually happens in the world, right?
Mhm.
I mean, what corporations these days encourage, especially the soulless ones, is to exploit your fellow workers as best as you can. Make people redundant, or not redundant, and but ultimately the individual is completely irrelevant.
Time for a random firing.
So yeah, I know. So I listened to this guy and watched him for 5 hours one night because I liked what he said, and I think it's Simon Sinek. But he all the things he said are completely common sense. You should treat people well. If you treat people in a way that makes them feel happy, they'll probably work better. If people feel secure in their job, if people feel safe, they'll probably work better.
That person's a genius.
It's a genius, right? And but that's the thing. His videos are the second highest watched videos on what's it called, the TED Talk. He's got the second highest watched video on TED Talk. So Google the second highest TED Talk, and that's the guy. And no, it's not revelationary. It's not revolutionary. It is not in any way a genius. It is simply stating very simple truths.
The obvious. Mickey, my favorite TED Talk is the advertising lady who was telling us all that we've all been manipulated by government through advertising all of our lives.
Of course.
And now through social media.
Yes.
Manipulated.
100%.
Manipulated. That means the abandonment of free choice.
If we dial back, and not even that far, back to the 50s and 60s, and especially in the States, but not just the States, anywhere in the world, really, you could see a government and the three-letter agencies and psychiatrists, psychologists, universities all working together. And including, in fact, that's when marketing was born. Marketing was born out of World War II, right? It came directly out of World War II and all the things that the Nazis did. Oh, there's the music!
There were geniuses at it.
Oy.
Well, look, we're not going to cut the stream, but there is another YouTube show. I'll break this into two. So take the time to donate. This is freedomslips.com. David making shiny side out, and in the first hour of 2 hours.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.